No, I know. That's why I was like, oh, I don't want them all there.
Okay. Thank you both. Great to meet you. Look forward to following up. It's good to be here, let me tell you. It's a big city and a lot of... And I think that also with the passing of these new regulations that allow for the social consumption and the delivery, the Cannabis Control Commission, good to meet you, gentlemen. All right. They reviewed the host community agreements. To your point about streamlining the host community agreements, you might want to get a little bit better understanding about the issue specifically
How can you justify buying someone like a fire truck?
Yeah.
Your business didn't cost the fire department to do anything different than they've been. So with us, we're not really looking to gouge. I think it's more because the council before us carved out 25% of all revenue that we pull in off this industry goes into an earmarked account for infrastructure facilities. It's just for city hall. That's what we're utilizing our resources for. We're not looking to replenish the police fleet off of it. That's nowhere near that because we've seen you're better off having good community partners and keeping those community partners. And it's kind of like they do in Cambridge. They don't get the tax off of the educational facilities. But if they get in a pinch, they step up and help out the community. It's a one hand washes the other hand like partnership as opposed to
I
like
like that word partnership.
that's not a gimme because then it's like why would you do business here?
Well, and you don't treat the other businesses like that. So we just want to be treated like we So, and I think in Lowell that we are, and I'm happy about
And
that.
I'll tell you, with this manager, he's super open-minded and laid back when it comes to it. We've had discussions one-on-one about like consumption lounge, and he's like, I'm not for it. He's like, I don't care. I have no problem. He's like, as long as it's done right.
Yeah.
How do I care?
I think that's it. Yeah.
It's not like that old mentality of like, cannabis.
That
People
ship
that
is
was-
sailed.
Well, the people that were sitting out there saying no to it were sneaking off and smoking joints in their house. So it's like, come on.
Well, we started in Lowell. We started in Lowell 4 or 5 years ago. So we ran up against it.
Against
Yeah.
and I mean, there's some of it that lingers.
Sure there is,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of good things happening in the city.
You don't have to have a business card.
No, but you can tell. I can give my advice. I usually have like a Russian bank and business cards.
I'll put it in here. And I was,
Yeah, I have some friends that have some dispensaries and stuff up in Maine.
Oh yeah.
oh
I have
yeah?
some friends
Which
that
one?
have some-
Which town?
Westbrook. One of my friends owns a place in Westbrook. I know the guy that owns
Robinson is your last name?
West Berwick.
Oh, East Berwick.
East Berwick, Green Truck.
You
Oh,
know
yeah.
him?
I've met the owner of Green Truck a few times, and my friend Jonathan does a lot of his processing at his facilities.
Okay. So your phone number?
978
Uh-huh.
319 1720.
All right. Duly noted.
Thanks.
Corey
It's
Robinson.
great meeting you.
Yeah, good to meet you. I'm glad we
Nice
came.
time to come
Yeah.
down to say something.
And then I'm friends with John. He owns Natural Roots up in Nashville. It's a
When you
plot.
say John, who's John?
He's the owner of Natural Roots up in
Oh,
Nashville.
okay. Pointing up, I thought.
Oh, no,
A building.
up in Nashville.
Okay, yeah, got it.
North of here.
Yes, I got it. All right. Thank you.
All right.
Great meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to meet you.
I look forward.
Wellman Street. Yes.
And I'd like to share with you that if any of you are interested, don't hesitate
Call
to
us.
come and take a look.
That'd be
at what
great.
we're doing.
Yeah.
We want to be transparent and we want to be
Yeah.
good neighbors. The business is going well.
But we're just getting started with our indoor. We did an outdoor.
Different business.
Yeah, a couple of years ago. We did an outdoor. And so our indoor just became operational after 4 years of a build out. So it's been a long time, building it out. So, and it's nice to hear what you say, thanking us, because man, it wasn't an easy, it's not an easy road to hoe. And we're self-funded and family owned. So,
Thank you for coming
yeah,
down
thanks
to
for your
speak
appreciation.
with us.
Okay,
We'll
all right,
talk
good night.
Good night.
Nice talking to
All right. I'm going to call this subcommittee meeting to order. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Counsel Yem.
Here.
Counsel Drinkwater.
Here.
Counsel Noon. Counsel Lee.
Here.
One absent.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. This is a meeting, a joint meeting of the subcommittees on housing and zoning to discuss draft zoning amendments to the downtown mixed-use district. This draft ordinance came as a result of a motion that was made on the floor of this joint subcommittee at a previous meeting, asking the Department of Planning and Development for any recommendations that would lower regulatory barriers and encourage redevelopment in the downtown area, in the downtown mixed-use district. So we will, I know, hear a brief presentation on these draft amendments here tonight. For anybody who's been watching LTC, this isn't deja vu or a rerun. Many of the same players here from the previous subcommittee meeting that just recently adjourned, but we're joined once again by Assistant City Manager and Director of Planning and Development, Giovanni Baez-Rose, as well as Francesca Sigliano from the Department of Planning and Development. We're also joined here in the chamber by Councilors Eric Gitchier and Wayne Janess. Thank you all for joining this meeting. And at this juncture, I will once again turn it over to Francesca Sigliano for a presentation on the topic of discussion here tonight. Ms. Sigliano?
Thank you, Counselor. So I'll pull up a presentation that I've prepared. All right, so thank you, everyone. The purpose of this presentation is to present proposed changes that would modify our existing zoning regulations related to the city's parking requirement and use table in our downtown mixed-use zoning district in an effort to support and streamline redevelopment of existing buildings in our downtown. This proposal aligns with many city goals, the first being from the Downtown Lowell Rapid Recovery Plan, which says that persistent vacancy issues plague some downtown blocks and some buildings. And some buildings could not acquire occupancy permits without significant investments. Many properties are vacant or underutilized, and that we should be focusing on restructuring zoning and design guidelines for reconstructions, renovation, infill, and new development to create opportunities for more flexible development, create opportunities for upper story residential uses, and encourage developers to build in downtown Lowell. So those were goals that were identified that would help with economic development in our downtown in particular. It also aligns with goals outlined in our current master plan, Sustainable Lowell 2025, which states that we aim to continue to promote the conversion of historic mill buildings and vacant upper stories of commercial buildings in the downtown area to residential units, artist live workspaces, and other uses as deemed appropriate. And then finally, 2 council motions over the past couple of years that both focus on converting upper floors into residences. So why are these changes being proposed? The current special permit and variance requirements are very expensive and risky for applicants. So currently applicants need to spend the money to apply for the Zoning Board of Appeals, which includes paying for a legal ad, which is now, I think, almost $800, thousands of dollars on professional plans, and there's a risk that the board could say no, so they're paying a lot up front, and there's no guarantee that the board would grant them relief or a special permit. We believe that removing barriers to development may encourage expedited residential redevelopment of upper floors, which we, as we saw, is a goal of the city. In my experience working for the city, and I know before I started working here, the Zoning Board of Appeals regularly supports and approves requests for parking variances and special permits in the downtown mixed-use zoning district. They really love those projects and regularly approve them, which suggests that this requirement may not be necessary. And in addition to that, additional housing downtown expands the customer base for local businesses, increases foot traffic, and enhances the vibrancy of our downtown. In addition to that, our parking study completed in 2021 found that we have plenty of parking capacity downtown, particularly in overnight hours. There's an abundance of garage parking. So I've listed some data that was pulled from the parking study, which found that the garages are underutilized overnight. The early garage has the most utilization at 53%, followed by the Downs garage at 44%, the Leo Roy garage at 40%, but the other 3 garages downtown are at less than 10% capacity overnight. So we have a lot of room in the garages for residents to store cars, and it's not reasonable, in our opinion, to ask developers to provide parking on site downtown where there's no space for cars on the same lot that housing is proposed. So what would the proposed changes include? 2 things. The first being removing the parking requirement for all residential uses in the DMU zoning district. And then I've just made a note that there is no parking requirement for all non-residential uses in the DMU within 1,500 feet of a publicly owned garage currently. So that means that any retail restaurant use that comes in to our office, if they're within 1,500 feet of a garage, there is no parking requirement. And what that does is it makes it easier to fill vacancies downtown. They don't need to provide parking on site. We know that parking is not a problem. And it allows for more flexibility for our commercial tenants downtown. And we feel that we should be enabling that same level of flexibility for residences downtown as well. The idea being that we would like to make the desired outcome as easy as possible and remove as many regulatory barriers to the desired outcome as we can. And then in addition to that, we would propose removing the special permit requirement for all residential uses of 10 or fewer units. And then I just noted that a building permit is still required, so they would still need to meet the building code and go through all of the building and fire review. It would still need to meet the building code, but this would just be removing a zoning barrier for these desired uses. So this is just the text of the proposed changes to the language, which shows that all of these residential uses in the downtown mixed-use zoning district would no longer have a parking requirement. Currently, it's at 1 space per dwelling unit, which is less than a lot of other zones in the city where we require 2 off-street parking spaces per unit, but we feel that 1 space is more appropriate, or no spaces is more appropriate, given the ZBA's willingness to issue variances and special permits regularly. Yeah, so that is the residential use table, or sorry, the table of parking requirements. This is revised language that just says that residential uses in the DMU zoning district will no longer have to lease spaces in a publicly owned off-street parking facility within 1,500 feet of the entrance to the use. So just taking the downtown mixed use out of that definition. And then this is a copy of the use table, which shows that instead of requiring a special permit for developments under 10 units, we would now allow those uses by right. And then any building of 11 or more dwelling units, so a larger redevelopment project, would still require a special permit. So a larger project, higher impact, we would still propose to bring them back before the zoning board. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'll open it up for any questions or comments by members of the subcommittees. Councilor Yam? Or I should say co-chair.
Co-chair.
Because this is a joint meeting where we are the respective chairs, so.
And I do not mind. I told Councillor Drinkwater that he can chair. I just sit, look pretty. I like that. So, my questions, I'm looking at no parking required if you have 2 units or less. Is that what required? Because the second page of what you talked about, the Article 12, table of use, if you go to 12.1, and then you have A, B, and C. So the C is a 3 dwelling unit. That's parking requirement is needed, right? Because they say yes.
So this table is the table of uses. It is not related to the parking requirement. It's a use table that says what type of uses are allowed where. So the first 2, A and B, the first one is a detached dwelling unit on a lot, so that'd be a single family house. That's not allowed in the DMU. Okay. The second one is either a duplex or 2 detached single family homes on the same lot, not allowed in the DMU. But 3 or more are allowed in the DMU. Okay. That's what this is showing. So it's this table is not about parking requirements. It's about use.
Usage, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Councilor Janess?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I want to thank the subcommittee for bringing this meeting together and bringing this to the table. I think it's very important, and I think that I'm very excited by these proposed changes, and I hope that the committee sees fit to approve these and send them to the full council. I think this has the potential of unlocking a lot of development downtown, the vacant upper floors being the least of it, which is a challenge that we've faced for a long time in our downtown. So this may help there, and it's something that many other cities are doing these days. Cambridge just voted to eliminate all parking minimums across the entire city for every use. I don't think we're quite there. I don't think we have the public transit infrastructure and other requirements to do something like that. We're obviously a different city than Cambridge, so I don't think we're ready to take that step. But I think we are ready to take this step to eliminate the parking requirements in the downtown mixed-use zone that often get waved away at meetings anyway, but do present a significant barrier for development and for the potential of the downtown. So I think this makes a lot of sense, and I'm happy to see this coming forward. I would just ask either Giovanni or Francesca, if one of you could just kind of give a maybe 10,000-foot view of where the DMU exists in the city of Lowell, just so anybody who's watching at home might know where exactly we're talking about on this. Thank you.
Sure. I would say major boundaries are, it's hard to say. I actually have a map here. Let me reference the map. The DMU generally, I want to say one of the edges is along Appleton Street. Another is the Merrimack River. It does not go past City Hall into the acre. Merrimack Street is kind of like the core of the downtown mixed-use zoning district, I would say. Merrimack and Market Streets. Sorry for not having a specific answer, but I can provide a map to you. We have them.
That would be great. Sorry to blindside you with that question.
It's
but
okay.
I think it was just important to lay out that we really are talking about the core of the downtown. We're not talking about all the adjacent abutting areas. We're just talking about the dense core that we have that is populated by 4 or 5 parking garages now. So there's plenty of off-street parking. We're not talking about adding more cars to the streets. We're talking about getting rid of the requirements to plan for off-street parking in an area that there's no real opportunities to do that as the built environment exists currently. I think, like I said, that this is a very exciting step that we're possibly going to take here, and I look forward to that. And I think this ties in well with a lot of other initiatives that we want to tackle as a city, as you mentioned, many of the other plans, strategic plans, and Go Lowell and all those that focus on multi-use transit, getting people out of cars, whether that's public transit, bikes, walking, etc. All ties in well to this, because you don't need a car if you don't have to pay for a parking space if you don't need a car. And we're making it easier for residents to live in the downtown without owning a car. So I hope that this is the first step of many that we can take to realize that vision. So thank you again for bringing this forward, and I look forward to supporting this at the full council level. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sigliano?
Yeah, I just wanted to add another comment that you made me think about. I think of this as an opportunity to invite other types of businesses downtown that don't currently exist there, because there's not a critical mass of people living downtown. For example, I know grocery stores, their margins are so small that they will only locate where there are enough people to walk there and use the store often. So businesses like grocery stores are only going to open where there are enough people living there to support those types of uses. So I'm hopeful that this change could encourage businesses like that to move downtown Lowell and make it a more well-rounded neighborhood and walkable neighborhood.
Thank you. I think those are great points that have been raised, and one reason why I think these changes are so important, and why I certainly intend to support them, is they address multiple important issues here in the city. One is just the need for more housing. If we can lower the barriers to developing additional units of housing, we certainly want to do that. But in the downtown area particularly, as has just been referenced, by bringing in more residents of the downtown, which is really the core business district of the city, we create more foot traffic and we create a better business environment for those who have invested in our downtown area. So I think that this, by lowering these barriers in this neighborhood in particular, we really create a doubly positive impact, which is why I think this discussion had happened within the subcommittee in the first place. So was really enthused to see these particular recommendations or changes, and would love to see these supported here tonight. So through the chair, I'm certainly willing to entertain a motion to support these recommendations and send them to the full council. But as I say that, I realize I have neglected to open up the floor to any members of the public who are here and wish to speak. And also want to acknowledge that we've been joined in the chamber by the city manager. So,
If I could just make a quick comment.
sure, Councilor Yam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I always intrigued when I went to Boston Chinatown to see, all the multi-level buildings similar to Merrimack Street downtown of Lowell. They have restaurant on the bottom and the apartment always upstairs. Most of the employee in each of those restaurants and markets live upstairs, and then create that additional housing, make it easy for employee to work downtown in Chinatown because they have enough apartment upstairs they can rent. So this is long overdue, and I'm excited, and I would just make a motion to send this to the full council to vote on.
Thank you, Councilor. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Thought maybe Councilor Leahy rather would
Second.
chime in if there he is.
There he is.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Mr. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Council Drinkwater.
Yes.
Council Noon. Council Yem.
Yes.
Council Lee.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very, very happy to see that this draft will now move on to the full city council for a discussion and vote. And I also want to note that we've been joined in the chamber by Mayor Chow as well.
Thank you.
Before we before I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, is there any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, any comment, input downtown? Yeah. All right. Awesome. Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
There he is. Motion to adjourn has been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Excellent. Excellent work.